Yeah. Okay. And
Can I come back to something we said there?
you can, of course.
Because I haven't hit on it yet. We had a plane crash in Barrack Street. And the plane crash in Barrack Street, it consisted of a light aircraft that the British Army, the Royal Army Air Corps I think it was called, used to use between military barracks. As you see, any troops that came to Waterford never came by road, they came by sea. They either came from Dublin by sea or by Cork by sea, which meant that straight away there was no one going to be killed, there was no one going to be ambushed or anything like that, so you could move them around like that. And but the way they got the letters and the information to and small items to Waterford would be, a plane would take off from the Curragh and swoop over the camps that were down there. Kilkenny would have been one, Clonmel down to Waterford, and then bang over the top. Now, what they did is they'd come in down, they'd skied, literally slide down over the top of the golf course, across the river, pull her up, get up to a bit of height, then dive down over the military barracks, and the co-pilot or whoever it would be would throw out a package of reinforced stuff with all the letters and whatever he had into the barracks. So as he did, the pilot then went, pulled her back, and suddenly the plane went from went a chuk and he barely got over the gate, and he got up over the gate and then slammed into the top of Batterberry's pub. I think got a photograph of that. Slammed into the top of Batterberry's pub, and there's a very funny story told about it. The two four men in it, one of them pink died afterwards, but they were actually, you can imagine the two of them sitting at the top of a pub in an aeroplane, and the whole of Waterford looking up at them.
Would you be able to say that to me again?
Sorry?
There, what was that? I couldn't hear you.
The plane crash.
Yeah, the plane crashed, but there was two fellas?
There was two fellas, the pilot and the co-pilot, or the pilot and the fella throwing out the envelopes. The next thing is, being Ireland at the time, the first thing they did is they didn't send for an ambulance, they sent for the priest. So the priest came from just at the back of us here, up there. They get the ladders, he goes up and he clambers up, and he looks in at the two fellas. One fella is badly damaged and the other fella is nearly out of it, and he says to the fellow that's nearly out of it, "In nomine Domini, et Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sanctus." And your man said to him, "Father," he said, "you're wasting your time," he said, "on Church of Ireland." And the priest said to him, "Well, in that event," he says, "you've got to make your own way home." And went back down the ladder. I left the poor fella there. I often wondered, like, what a thing for a fella to say to you, But it was of the time, they didn't recognise the schism between the Catholic Church and the Protestant churches, and it was just terrible even as a youngster, because this could work. If you went to a Protestant funeral, you were going to be excommunicated or something like that, or it could be a reserved sin put in front of the bishop, But that particular day, now that happened during, as we call them, during the Troubles, because we tended to put everything that we did during the Troubles, and the other one was in the emergency. The emergency consisted, I think it's something like 50 million people lost their lives between 1938 and 1945. Countries vanished off the face of the earth, empires were dissolved, but in Ireland it was only an emergency. They didn't see it as a Second World War at all, And they had, that's why the military barracks were so important to the British in that instance. Now later on, the military barracks served another great purpose, because there was a man over there called Father Farrell. He came from behind me there. Father Farrell was a priest, a great driving force, and a man who followed on for Father Power, who started the idea of a carnival. And if they had the carnival going and got enough amusements and things into it, they could get the money to build the church of Luke Wadding Street, which is still known affectionately to Water people as the New Church, despite the fact there's been 4 different churches built after it. It was known as the New Church. So they held the carnivals down in the courtyard, or the courthouse. And the problem with the courthouse was this: anybody could get into the courthouse for nothing. But you couldn't get into the military barracks. There's only one entrance in and one entrance out. So the women outside would be there would be 4, maybe 8 people, 4 on either side, selling apples. There were great families for apples in Waterford. The Grants, the Mulallys, the Plowers, the Hurleys, and all these people would be there, and they'd be selling apples, and that was their stock and trade. And they'd have lovely white tablecloths on the tables with the apples in pyramids. And as you went in, you might get, if you got threepence worth of apples, that's 3 cents worth of apples, you could fill your jersey with them. You could be eating apples all night. That's how plentiful they were. Once you went inside the door, then it was like walking into Aladdin's cave. Because the first thing hit you when you walked in the hallway between the entrance to the actual barracks itself, they'd have what they called the gate prize. The gate prize was normally a cheffonier or a three-piece suite. Now a three-piece suite, my God almighty, I mean, it was for a shilling, getting a ticket, you could get a three-piece suite for a shilling. If you went in to buy it, it might cost you 15 quid. You know, that puts it in perspective for you. And when you went inside then, on either side of the military barracks then, running up either side of them, were all these stalls run by committee members in the parish who would make homemade brillantine for putting in your hair, going to dances. The problem with the homemade brillantine was this: it was gorgeous when you put it in, but the minute sort of heat came on, to start running down your face and dribbles, you know, it felt like going around with big stained faces with all this brillantine running down their faces. And they'd be selling homemade bread and home, you know, they'd have country butter and country eggs and all that sort of thing. And then the amusement, Turks used to do the amusements. You'd have the Wall of Death, to young kids, boys particularly. The Wall of Death was something else, because what it meant is people going around on motorbikes in around a huge big circle. You know, centrifugal force kept them up. We didn't think that. We thought it was pure skill. And everybody wanted to be one of them when we came out of the barracks, you know. Then they'd have the rag, which they call the rag. It was held on the final day. And the rag would attract people from all over the city. And the rag was that you dressed up in something of the time. At the time, there was one of the kings of King Fahd, F-A-U-D, Fahd of Saudi Arabia, was fairly upmarket, notoriously upmarket. And somebody would dress up as him. Somebody else would dress up as the members of the water hurling team who won in '59. And then they give out money. Now the top prize was a pound, one pound. And you could get 5 shillings. Now 5 shillings, well, that's like 25 pence, but Jesus, 5 shillings. First thing you did with your 5 shillings, you ran home to your mother and you gave her the money and took back whatever you got. My brother Bernie, God love him, Bernie, God rest him as well. Bernie came up with a wonderful idea altogether. See, my mother's amazement and anger, he got a thing of black boot polish, and he covered himself in black boot polish. It took him months to get it off, and she had to get Pond's cream to get it off, and he was covered in black. And he went down, "Who are you?" "I'm going to be Al Johnson," he said. So he walked down, and there's a lovely warm day, and the black polish was running off his face. And he stood in front of the family, and he said, "Mammy, I'll give you a mammy." He said, "There's your £5, go home to your mother." Very won a prize, and we were able to go to every kind of thing to try and get our names on the prize. We couldn't know. It was a lovely street. It was a street full of character and characters. Great Christian people lived in that street, and indeed, reverting back to the Jews and the people who had a place down there, they in their own way contributed greatly to the street, because they were able to give the, as I said, if you had something you couldn't flog, they'd buy it. And they would buy it for something, which is an important thing. It's a matter of, they bought it for something. 6 pence, 6 cents, I don't know what you call it nowadays, you know, 5 cents or something. 6 cents in those days, 5 cents in those days, sounds like nothing now. Could be the difference between a family eating something special for their meal or not eating for their meal. Things were very poor in Irish, you know. And they used to come up with tremendous combinations. The women were marvellous. Christ, the women were something else. They would keep families fed on nothing. And every garden at the back then would have their own vegetable patch. They would grow lettuce and rhubarb in particular. Rhubarb was a great one for making tarts with. And tarts were very filling. And all they wanted was get enough sugar to fry in on top of it. And they'd make rhubarb jam, rhubarb this and rhubarb that, and you'd be sent out the country to buy or to pick wild apples out there, you know, crab apples they used to call them. Bring them home. Your mother could do amazing things. She'd make apple tarts. There'd be no longer a sour taste after them. Whatever to do with them. She'd make blind stew with no meat. And as I said to you, the people were outstanding people. Like, I couldn't pay tribute to them highly enough, like, you know.